what's coming up on your horizon. Well, in Oklahoma, probably no industry is more iconic than agriculture. It's what songs are made of.
When the wind comes sweeping down the plain, and the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
And while part of our legacy, agriculture remains a bedrock industry for the state. 1 out of every 9 export dollars is the result of an agricultural product. And in every corner of the state, producers are growing wealth from rows of wheat to pastures of cattle. Today, we're going to meet some Oklahomans who have dedicated their lives to help feed the world. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by Career Tech, a job for every Oklahoman and a workforce for every company. With additional support from the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Rob McClendon. Well, for the past 2 years, net farm incomes have been in sharp decline around the country. But thankfully, our nation's farm sector went into that downturn in strong financial shape, bolstered by a tremendous run of profitability in previous years. In fact, here in Oklahoma, agriculture has been one of the few bright spots in an economy bruised and battered by low energy prices. Today, we are going to focus on Oklahoma's agriculture sector, and we begin with the story of an Oklahoman honored this week for a lifetime of achievement. Here's our Austin Moore.
There is a calmness to the wind, gently rolling between East and West Barnes Creeks in western Oklahoma's Custer County. That calmness is reflected in the steady hand of Clint Roush as he looks after this spread, not as an owner, but as a partner to it.
Generations of farmers come and go. It seems like they come and go rather rapidly, but the land endures, and each generation has to make improvements, increase the productivity, and maintain the environment so that the next generation continue to farm.
Roush is the 2016 recipient of the Governor's Outstanding Achievement Award in Agriculture. He is a fourth-generation farmer and rancher. Those familial ties led him to a life of a caretaker, not just for this property, but for farm and ag finance students and for the industry itself.
The thing that I like to think about in a multi-generation farm is the transfer of knowledge and the sharing of experiences from one generation to the next.
Roush grew up around his great-grandparents and grandparents and was raised right here by his parents. Now Roush and his wife Pam have 3 children and 14 grandchildren, with one more on the way.
They shared their wisdom, they shared their experience, so each generation adds on additional information, additional knowledge, additional technology, as the generations go through. I look forward to the time when future generations of our farming operation deal with the amount of information that's available now and the new technology like precision farming, the use of drones.
As a teacher, Roush has carried with him the lessons learned from his parents, his FFA advisor, and his mentors at Oklahoma State University, including Dr. James Plaxico.
He took a chance on me and got me involved in teaching farm financial management, agriculture finance, and doing extension work with farmers and ranchers and agriculture lenders. And this again was a tremendous advantage or benefit, was getting to know all the people that we worked with across the state of Oklahoma in the farm finance and agriculture finance area.
Roush carried those lessons into his own classroom. With a combined 14 years of teaching and consulting experience in agriculture finance, farm finance planning, business management, and strategic farm planning at Oklahoma State University and at Southwestern Oklahoma State University. Roush has held positions on the board of directors for nationally recognized institutions, such as CoBank, and advisory council positions on the Kansas City Federal Reserve Bank and a number of state and regional institutions, including a lifetime membership to the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association.
I give a credit to God's providence in our lives that put us in the right places, in the right times, and to meet the right people.
Roush has consistently demonstrated a lifelong commitment to rural Oklahoma and American agriculture. His dedication firmly focused on stewardship, which he says is much more than a good business practice.
It's been a way of life in our family.
Clint Roush, 2016 recipient of the Governor's Outstanding Achievement Award in Agriculture.
Now, Dr. Roush was one of 4 honored with a Governor's Achievement Award. When we return, their stories as well.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon with Rob McClendon. Weekly insight into your changing world.
Well, each year with the start of spring, those who work the land are honored at the state capitol for Ag Day. It's an opportunity for lawmakers and staff to interact with those who grow our food and enjoy an occasional tasty bite. And while the morning focuses on the festivities in the rotunda, the afternoon is reserved for honoring a select few who have left their mark on the agriculture industry. Altogether, 4 Oklahomans were honored with the Governor's Agricultural Award. In addition to Clint Roush, Brett Carver received the Outstanding Public Service in Agriculture Award for his work in improving Oklahoma's wheat crops.
I'm a wheat breeder, and what that means is I try to make wheat better. I try to do it by taking the genetics that's in the plant and tweaking it a little bit. Taking the best genetic pieces, putting them together. We call that a variety, and I call a variety a stimulus package. It's something that stimulates the economy, it stimulates a farmer's profitability, stimulates a lot of things that make our economies grow. I was always hooked on science to some degree. I've always been having a fondness of agriculture, even though I didn't grow up on a farm. I still was, had that fondness, enchantment with it, a desire to be creative. You put all things like that together, you end up being a plant breeder. It just happened that way. Zora Hurston had a saying, and I really like it, I've kind of stuck with it throughout my career. She said that research is poking and prying with a purpose. Poking and prying with a purpose, that's exactly what we're doing. We're just poking and prying. But there's a rhyme and reason to that. It's a formalized curiosity, as she said, and that's exactly what we do. When I see or hear a farmer say something about a wheat variety as if they own it, my Duster did this or my Gallagher did this, that tells me we made the connection. And that to me is probably the most satisfying part of this job. We made the connection.
President and CEO of Greenleaf Nursery, Randy Davis, received the Governor's Agricultural Environmental Stewardship Award.
We're on the banks of the Tenkiller Lake. It's basically on 3 sides of us. So we're surrounded, and we take it very serious. We live here, so we care about it, and it's a great lake, and we like to get out and fish on it ourselves and enjoy it, so we take it very serious. So we have 7 reservoirs strategically stationed across the nursery here, and we catch all of our runoff water and recycle it. We have about 40 miles of plastic houses here. That serves basically as a solar panel that collects the heat. So these houses will stay about 15 to 25 degrees warmer than the outside temperature. And that saves us from using natural gas or propane to heat these houses, so it saves a lot of energy there. So all of it's covered in the fall to protect for the winter, and we have to take it off in the summertime. We'll use a round hay baler to actually bale it up like a round bale of hay. And then we'll prepare that, put it on a pallet so that it can be loaded and sent to the recyclers. Chemicals are very important to us, and not overusing chemicals. So we started using the IPM so that we actually have scouts that go out, and every day they're scouting our nursery. So they're looking for diseases, any kind of insects. Then we'll go out and spot spray so that we can actually take care of the problems as they're needed to be taken care of. Plants will always be needed. Plants are great for us. They make you feel better when you're around them if you have plants, and everybody likes to go out into a garden and enjoy it. Plants are a good thing that I think will always be in vogue, always be needed.
And the Governor's Outstanding Legacy in Agriculture Award went to the late Quintus Heron, was honored for transforming the timber industry in southeastern Oklahoma.
Quintus was one of those people that really had the it factor. They didn't come around very often like him, and he really had that extra spark of life, and he conveyed it through his work, through the community, through this timber business, and definitely through his family. So I think I can speak for all his grandkids saying that that's what he really left for us. Not just the business or anything, but just the values he instilled upon us were really important.
Quintus was a pioneer in his field, and he developed several tree farming methods which are now common across the South.
One of my favorite parts of working for my family is getting to hear from countless loggers or people from this area who had the privilege of working with my grandpa Quintus, and they might say, you know, I learned everything I know about the logging woods from your grandpa, and that just really means a lot, and it makes it a lot of fun to continue his work and follow in his footsteps. You just really couldn't beat the kind of guy he was, so he's definitely deserving of this award, and his family feels great that he's selected, and we're happy to be able to receive it on his behalf.
Now we'll have more on each of these recipients in the coming weeks.
Still to come on Oklahoma Horizon. Is your food unnaturally delicious?
We humans have decided to change our foods and our food system.
But first, Ag in the Classroom.
Well, an Oklahoma teacher is a finalist for the National Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Award. Lisa Storm is a nationally board certified third grade teacher at Heritage Elementary in Kingfisher and one of 7 finalists for her work in using agricultural concepts to teach subject areas like reading, writing, science, and social studies.
There's lots of reasons why I use Ag in the Classroom. There's so many subjects you have to teach in third grade, and it's why you might as well use agriculture topics to teach them rather than anything else. Like if you're teaching drawing conclusions or making an inference, you could read things about penguins or taxis in New York, or you could read about sheep and wool and pork and wheat in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom's Audrey Harmon says Storm is constantly looking for innovative ways to help her students learn.
Lisa's a fantastic teacher. She's a great proponent for agriculture, and she's helped Ag in the Classroom specifically by writing over 50 smartboard lessons that we can use and offer to teachers in our state and all across the nation.
Very excited and surprised and humbled because there's so many good teachers out there.
And Lisa Storm is no stranger to recognition. Storm was named Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year in the year 2014. And joining me now with more on this year's Teacher of the Year is our Courtney May.
At the elementary school in Morrison, Oklahoma, if you ask a third grade student where his or her food comes from, their answer will not be the grocery store. A teacher at this elementary school is using agriculture to keep her class engaged. It's hands-on learning like you've never seen before.
1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4.
In Amber Bell's third grade class at Morrison Elementary, students are learning more than just math, science, and reading. They are also learning about agriculture.
Wild.
It's just a fun way for the kids to interact with Oklahoma products, Oklahoma specialty crops, related things, and it makes them very excited about their learning, but also using Oklahoma agriculture.
It's a program called Ag in the Classroom and is available for teachers across Oklahoma to implement into their learning environment. Audrey Harmon is the state coordinator.
It's to make sure that students understand where their food, clothes, and shelter come from. The main goal is to incorporate agriculture literacy into every subject area. Whatever it might be, they're learning about agriculture and how important it is to them.
Miss Bell's students are learning about pumpkin farming and seeing how far they can spit pumpkin seeds.
We also made smoothies, just a fun way to encourage good eating habits. The students were able to measure again using the half cup, the 4th cup, and again, hands-on, and they love anything hands-on.
Bananas, strawberries, and yogurt combined with the old-fashioned karate chopping blending method leaves the students with a healthy and tasty homemade treat, a lesson any classroom can use.
They are very quick, easy lessons that are there for you on the website. Simply pull down. They're there, quick, easy, very inexpensive to get the activities and a lot of the things you have on hand already. It's very quick and easy.
Miss Bells was named the 2015-2016 State Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year, and she used this opportunity to share with the students the value of perseverance.
And I worked harder the second year and applied again, and this is what happens when you work hard and you don't stop and you keep on working at it. Thank you.
It's more than your typical third grade classroom. Miss Bales is instilling the importance of agriculture in her students, who may not hear the message anywhere else.
She's just really going above and beyond to incorporate agriculture, and it's carried over into her personal life. When you visit with her, she says that she wasn't raised on a farm, but now they have a garden, and her excitement about agriculture is contagious with her students.
As the 2016 Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year, Bales will speak at the Ag in the Classroom Summer Conference, and throughout the year she will help other teachers learn how to use the hands-on lessons.
So exactly what are some of the lessons that Ms. Bales teaches?
Students can learn about sprouting bean seeds, why certain fruits and vegetables are good for your health, how to help protect pollinators, and also facts about bison, all of which is relevant to agriculture in Oklahoma.
All right. Thank you so much, Court.
You're welcome, Rob.
Well, Oklahoma is a wheat and cattle state, but it's also a pecan, pumpkin, cabbage, and grape state. Now, those specialty crops aren't raised in the same abundance as the state's major commodity crops, but they do play an important role in human health and our state's economy. That's why this past year, we worked with Ag in the Classroom to create short video vignettes to help teachers be able to add ag literacy into their curriculum. Here's our quick look.
We've been working on sequencing. We're a reading and language class, and we've been working on sequencing and how things move through a process. There was a lot provided already on the Ag in the Classroom website, which is very helpful. I just found a sequencing activity online and pulled that right into our curriculum and was able to pick and choose.
We have many microclimates in our state.
So we started with grapes and learning about the history of grapes, went through a timeline and created a timeline of how the grapes have been produced throughout the years. And then we moved on to the growth cycle of the grapevine and read about the growth cycle. They found steps of the growth cycle, and then they put those in order of sequence of how they happen from the beginning until the end. After the growth cycle, then we reviewed a little bit, talking about fact and opinion that we've been talking about with reading, and then moved into our fable. So we read The Fox and the Grapes and talked about our fable, what elements of a fable. They talked about that using the Smartboard activity. They worked on what's a fable, what's not a fable, trying to compare and make sure that they understand what that is. And then finally they followed a recipe and looked at the sequence of the recipe and created a grape parfait at the very end. They have to work on what comes before, what comes after, what's the third step, and so using that process helps them. Anything hands-on, Smartboard interactive that we can talk, they can get up and move. That makes a big difference. Adding the food in, of course, is a big plus at the very end. And just remind the kids, this is all about Oklahoma.
Now you can see more of these videos streaming on the Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom website, which we do have a link to under this story at okhorizon.com.
Horizon is at your fingertips. Join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to catch the segments you may have missed and our latest new content as it happens.
Is your food unnaturally delicious? Well, one ag scientist says it is, and you should be thankful for it. In his new book, Unnaturally Delicious, Jason Luss says science and technology are serving up superfoods to save the world. And I sat down with him in studio shortly before the book's release. Jason, why did you decide to write Unnaturally Delicious?
You know, there's a lot of pessimism, I think, about food in this country. And we do have some some serious food problems. There's no denying that. But I think a big issue is how are we going to solve these problems? And so much of what I read in the news and in popular culture seems to suggest that the way to solve our big food problems is to become all natural again, to sort of turn our clocks back, do things the way our grandparents did. And I think that just is at odds with the historic reality of the way food has evolved, and all the many things we enjoy about our food system today, in large part have come about because we humans have decided to change our foods and our food system. And so in this book, I try to take a much more positive and forward-looking view about the future of food. And I interview entrepreneurs, I interview scientists and innovators who are doing really interesting and great things that's going to lead to a much brighter food future.
Before we talk about that future, I do want to ask you, if we did turn back the clock, is that even sustainable? Could we feed ourselves?
You know, we humans as a species, we've long passed the point where we could sustain ourselves, sustain the current population we have eating naturally. We might be able to feed maybe 4 billion people if we went to even the best organic methods and we all converted to vegetarian diets, but we have 7 billion people living on this earth now. And we're probably going to get another billion people in the next 20 years. And so how are we going to feed all these people? Well, we need innovation. We need entrepreneurship to address those challenges. And the good story is that we've been able to do that for centuries. People have been worried about whether we're going to keep up with population growth, and we've been able to do it. And the way we've been able to do it is through science, through innovation, through new technologies, tinkering around with new things, seeing what's going to work. And I'm very optimistic about that future, and I think we're going to meet the challenges, not just to be able to feed that growing world, but to provide better food and more nutritious food and safer food.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite stories out of Naturally Delicious?
There's many great stories in the book, and one of the great things for me in writing the book is I got to learn a lot about a lot of the great things going on. A good story, for example, is one of David Waite's. He was a former farmer who turned entrepreneur, and he has created software that's now used on over 100 million farm acres worldwide. This is software that's helping farmers farm more precisely, helping them to get higher yields and to make sure that they don't have nutrient runoff that is entering our waterways and causing these sorts of problems. This is an innovation of information technology and big data and internet technologies. And here's a person from Oklahoma that has been able to capitalize on that technology and really put some tools in the hands of farmers to help food security, but also environmental outcomes.
Now, you have a fairly long list of success stories in the book. Why do you think people have not taken notice of them before?
Well, I think they're in our daily lives, we just often don't notice them very much. So just the next time in your kitchen, look around. So you have a microwave, you have a refrigerator, you have a stove top, you have a mixer. All these things are unnatural human inventions that made our lives easier, better, cooking easier. I've got examples in there of even new kitchen technologies, whether it's 3D food printers or even robotic kitchens that might help us cook dinner while we get to entertain our dinner guests. All these things, I think, they come along gradually, so sometimes we don't notice them and we sort of forget, we take it for granted, the things that technologies have done for us in our lives.
So Jason, you're a researcher. Why do you think that so many people have these negative impressions on our food system?
Part of it's just our human nature and the fact that bad news sells. So we tend to pay more attention to the bad than the good, and unfortunately it can be quite profitable to scare people and to sell diets and to sell books that uncover so-called secrets about the food system. And I think people tend to see authors and even, you call them food entrepreneurs, if you will, offering all kinds of new things. They think, well, these people are interested in my health and my safety. But the reality is they're often, in many cases, preying on people's fears and profiting on those fears as well. And so, yeah, it's just human nature in a lot of cases, but there's also people that can exploit that human nature to their own gain.
So I guess a final question, where do you think food technology is going to? What are we going to see in the coming years?
I think we'll see all kinds of interesting applications. On the farm, we'll see a lot more precision ag technologies, so farmers being much more judicious with their use of fertilizers and herbicides, for example. I think we'll see new crop varieties that are disease resistant, that will provide benefits to consumers, either in terms of improved health or improved safety. On the safety front, I think we'll see, in the book I talk about new food safety technologies so that we can make sure we don't have Chipotle recalls anymore. For example, we need technologies to help us solve those things. So in general, I think we'll see a better food system, a food system that's more sustainable and more affordable.
Now, Naturally Delicious is published by St. Martin's Press and is available online and in bookstores.
Want to see more stories like this? All our segments are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV.
Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we catch up with country recording artist and Oklahoma native Wade Hayes on his journey back from cancer.
What you're looking at is nothing short of a miracle. I was given 12% at best chance of living, and now I'm completely cancer-free. And that is extremely atypical for somebody who is stage 4.
Oklahoma's musical heritage on Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Thanks for including us as part of your day. I'm Rob McClendon. Hope to see you back here next week.